What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980, where now you can see Anthony Haney complete in his LeBron James t-shirt. You're so proud of it.
Like, you see me, man? You see me?
I do. Crystal clear, high definition.
Yeah, I'm a little sad, Bron's not in the playoffs still, but it's okay. It's okay. I've let that hurt go.
Yeah. Remember in the final game of his playoff run this season, Anthony, when Rudy Gobert had 27 points and 24 rebounds?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Seems like that guy stayed there.
Pretty much.
I don't know what French is for uh-oh, but Rudy Gobert, not quite as effective here in the conference finals. Julius Randle seems to have turned back into a pumpkin. And suddenly, Anthony, the Oklahoma City Thunder have a commanding, because there is no other kind, 2-0 series lead. Now, in the NBA playoffs, a series doesn't start until a team wins on the road. So this series, technically through that lens, hasn't started yet. By the same token, one more win for Oklahoma City, and it feels like this series is over. And frankly, it feels like it's over right now. The numbers from last night are very interesting to look at when you add a little bit of context to them. Anthony Edwards, obviously much better. Julius Randle was much worse. But it's kind of when the numbers came and how it went down that tells the story of this game. Once again, the Thunder were absolutely dominant in the third quarter. Come out of halftime, 35-21, a 14-point advantage in the third. They actually lost the fourth by 7, and it just didn't matter because they were up 8 at halftime and then opened up an additional 14-point lead with that margin in the third. But in that third quarter, Anthony, you had Anthony Edwards, who had 18 shots taken at halftime. He first play of the game. It's something we talked about yesterday on the show, right? Is he going to come out aggressive? What kind of shots are they going to get him? It's not just, will Anthony Edwards shoot? It's like, how do the Minnesota Timberwolves ensure that Anthony Edwards is involved in the game? Well, they come out, first possession, mid-post ISO on the left side of the floor, and he gets a shot up. In that first half, he was still assertive. It didn't feel like he took 18 shots or he was on that kind of pace for stretches of it, because there were stretches of it where you're just like, oh my God, they have 1.5 guys on him every time he touches the ball. And Ant has done a good job this postseason. It's part of the maturation of his game of, all right, I got an extra guy on me. Let's swing it and trust that I'm going to get the ball back. And then the third quarter happened. And ultimately, Ant, who had 18 shots at halftime, finishes with just 26 for the game. So it's 18 in the first half, 8 in the second half. He goes 1 for 9 from three-point range. He scores 32, has 9 rebounds, but just the turnovers in that third quarter, the inability to do anything with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who gets to the line 15 times on top of getting off 21 shots. He's got 38 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals in this one. Just another dominant performance. Jalen Williams plays really well. Again, he's found his game in this series after a rough stretch earlier in the playoffs. And then you're just not getting a whole lot from anywhere else in Minnesota. Randall, just 6. Jaden McDaniels had a nice night, but Naz Reid, just 10 points. Dante DiVincenzo, who was incredible last year for the Knicks in the playoffs, has 8 points on 3 of 8 shooting. And there's just not enough for Minnesota against the deepest and best team in the league. And now you got a 2-0 hole. And I always think it's interesting to put it this way. The Oklahoma City Thunder lost 14 games all year, Anthony. 14 in the regular season, 68-14. The Timberwolves, to win the series, now have to beat them 4-5. Good luck.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. And to be honest, I would not be surprised if they get swept. And the only reason I say that is because they don't have enough shooting. They have guys that are capable of shooting, but they don't have, knockdown pure shooters. Naz Reid has been a shell of himself. To be honest, he's been super inconsistent all playoffs. DiVincenzo, as you just pointed out, he hasn't, been the same DiVincenzo that we saw last year with the Knicks. Jaden McDaniels, again, he's a capable shooter, but I wouldn't say he's a knockdown shooter. And then when it comes to like the other side of the ball, not just catch and shoot, actually being able to put the ball on the ground and create, they don't have that. They don't have anyone, to be honest, to be able to do that outside of Anthony Edwards in terms of like getting their shot. Julius can do it, but again, the Thunder are like piranhas out there. Like anytime he puts the ball on the ground, there's like 6 people around him, and he's failing to, find the open person. He's turning the ball over, and that's what they do. So it's going to be tough if Anthony Edwards is the only one that can create off the dribble, because that's what they're forcing him to do. They're running out to him, and if they're not knocking down those shots, which they haven't this series, then they have to put the ball on the ground. And every time they do, they turn the ball over. So it's hard to score when you're not even getting up shots.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull this up real quick. See if Julius, can I do shot charts by individual games? I might be able to. Let's see. Stat Muse. Oh, yeah. Nope, that's okay. There's a way to do it. Not quickly enough for me to make this point. I don't need the shot chart to make the point. It's also radio, so while it would inform my opinion, for most of you, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway, because I'm not pulling it up on the YouTube stream. The point is, in game 1, Julius Randle made a ton of threes. And like that's how he had 28 points. He was really efficient, made all his shots. But that also meant he was like out on the perimeter a lot. And in some key stretches of this series, he is being guarded by Alex Caruso, who might be the single best perimeter defender in the entire league. Might have the best hands. He's incredibly strong. He's got great feet. And Julius Randle's trying to drive on him. Like, Julius Randle's handle's nice for a big man, but nice for a big man and can drive past 4s and 5s, some power forwards, centers, is very different than let me drive on Alex Caruso. And so the second Julius tries to start dribbling, Caruso's like, what are you doing? And just like shuts it down, swipes at the ball, makes Julius turn his back. And so how do you, if you're Chris Finch, get him in better positions? And the answer was last night, we can't, and he benched him in the fourth quarter. And so you are in a spot where last year you were, pushing conference finals, and you trade Karl Anthony Towns for, who's not my favorite player, but whatever. Like, he's really talented. And Cat gets traded for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. And Dante DiVincenzo was a minus 27 last night in the plus minus. So when DiVincenzo was on the court, they were outscored by 27 points. He's like a minus 40 something for the series. And Julius Randle, who was benched in the fourth quarter. That's not great. And Tim Connolly and that front office deserves a ton of credit for taking that kind of risk. And it's obviously worked out in a lot of ways. And maybe it works out in the long term. Anthony Edwards is still 23 years old. I think he's got a lot of maturing to do, obviously off the floor, but also on the floor as a player, because that's what happens in this league. And it's a lot easier to be right as a doubter when you're talking about the NBA than predicting some greatness, because only one team wins in the end, and the margins are incredibly fine. But if we go back to my chat with Zach Harper, Anthony, what was the question I asked him? Can you trust the T-Wolves? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, this is way more about the Thunder than it is the T-Wolves. But the the T-Wolves haven't even given themselves a chance, because the inability to be disciplined, not turn the basketball over, understand the intensity that's coming, and ultimately we're going to see if they survive the weekend. I guess they'll survive the weekend because Game 4 wouldn't be until Monday. But if they survive, how deep into next week? Because they are down 0-2 right now. We'll talk more about this game and about the Eastern Conference game next. Then coming up at 4:30 today, Kevin Sheehan a couple days ago had an interesting chat on his show about the Commanders' running back position. We will embark on that chat as well with you at 301-230-0980. We'll preview OTAs next week with Ben Standing and talk about Terry McLaurin's potential contract dispute. Is it real? Is it just, did he miss for other reasons? We'll talk to Standing at 5 o'clock. Plenty of other fun stuff. Mike Golic Jr. later in the program as well here on The Hoffman Show. Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. So we're going to have our 7th different NBA champion in 7 years this year. And I think as we're 2 games deep into this Western Conference Finals series, it is a really interesting kind of look at NBA team building and something that I have talked about quite a bit over the years on this show and anytime I've ever talked basketball professionally in my entire career, which is just how hard it is to win in the NBA and the things that you need to actually do that. And so Anthony and I, we were talking during the break. And Anthony, can you repeat the question that you asked me about Monsieur Gobert?
Yeah, I was thinking like whether or not the Timberwolves should think about benching Rudy Gobert because, again, he has offered them nothing. He does not look like the force that he was in the Los Angeles Lakers series, and he's just taking a space essentially.
So let's review real quick who Rudy Gobert is. Okay, not like everyone knows he's a basketball player, he's center for the Timberwolves. Okay, Rudy Gobert is 32 years old. He has been in the league since 2013. In that time, he's a 3-time All-Star, All-NBA second team, like not all defense, All-NBA, All-League second team once, All-Third team 3 times. He's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 7-time NBA Defensive First Team. And this year, he made the defensive team again for the first time as a second team member. I was reading Zach Harper's write-up in The Bounce this morning, the Athletics basketball newsletter. And Harper goes, I don't know that Rudy knew until like today or yesterday when they announced the teams that a second team existed. Right? Wow. He's been 7 times on the first team. NBA's leading rebounder in 2022, blocks leader in 2017. He has 2 silver medals for Team France. A couple of bronze medals in the World Cup, silver and bronze in Eurobasket for France. Rudy Gobert is an awesome basketball player. And yet, Anthony, repeat for me one more time the question you were asking about him.
Should the Timberwolves think about benching Rudy Gobert?
And it's not a crazy question. The playoffs, this is what makes building a team in the NBA to win a championship so hard. Rudy Gobert has been one of the 15 to 20 best players in the world in the regular season and is probably one of the 30 to 40 best players in the world still. And in the playoffs, because of the specificity of his skill set, he has been rendered literally useless in this particular round against this particular team. Also, 3 weeks ago, he was the best player in the world because he had 27 points and 24 rebounds in a single game against the Los Angeles Lakers in an enormous moment. And in that moment, people were like, oh, Rudy Gobert's finally had his breakthrough moment in the playoffs. Look at Rudy go. Is he a different play? Like, bro, he's 32 years old. We're 100 games into the season. Maybe it's just that. Maybe the key is to have a bunch of dudes who are really young and can run around for a long time. And if you put too much load on the superstars, then maybe they wind up getting hurt. But also, if your stars aren't old enough, then, like, is Anthony Edwards ready for this moment? Or is it just not possible to be ready for this moment? I mean, think about the NBA champions that we've had. I'm going to see if I can efficiently look this up. List of NBA champions, right? So last year's the Boston Celtics, obviously. Jason Tatum last year would have been 26 years old. Who won the year before that, Anthony? So we're in 2023.
The Nuggets.
All right. Nikola Jokic is currently 30 years old. So he was 28 at the time. 2022 was the Warriors. That was kind of almost an anomaly championship. Steph winning at the back end of his prime. 2021 was that the year? The Bucks. So Giannis, Antetokounmpo, and we need it 4 years ago? 26 or 27 years old. He's 30 now, which is crazy that Giannis is 30. 2020, it's
Lakers.
LeBron. 2019 was Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is currently 33 years old. And so we're looking at Kawhi in 2019, 6 years ago. He was 27 years old. And then all of a sudden you're back to the 2018 Warriors, which is Steph and KD. Steph Curry is currently, he's like 30. Yeah, he's 37. So 2018 was how long ago?
7 years.
7 years. So he was 30. So you just need to have a star in your prime between 26 and 30. If you're really lucky, maybe that guy's Steph Curry and he wins a couple years later, or he's LeBron James and he wins you a title in 2022. Like, it's dudes don't win young in this league. And then if you have a certain, like Drew Holiday had a huge role in the Nuggets or in the Bucks title, and Drew would have been in that range at that point. But like 32 as the third guy, or like Chris Middleton, same thing, is very different than one of the main guys, or as the main guy. And so there is this incredible sweet spot that requires simultaneous amounts of patience and urgency that is infuriating if you're a fan, right? Because like if you're a Wizards fan, obviously right now, and you're like, okay, well, one, I don't know that we have our guy yet. We're waiting for like a Boozer twin next year, or whoever, if they can win the lottery next year, or maybe they get a guy this year who turns out to be a stud. Who knows? Like the NBA draft is very crapshooty. I'm pretty sure that Cooper Flagg's going to be awesome. I'm pretty sure Dylan Harper's going to be awesome. Any of the next 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, like, could you find the next Steph Curry? Probably not Steph Curry, but could you find a Jalen Brunson? Could you find a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Sure. We don't know. And so then, let's say they do. Let's say that one of the there's kind of a next 4, right, that everyone agrees on. It's Fears, the Oklahoma point guard. It's Trey Johnson, the Texas kid. It's VJ Edgecombe, and it's Ace Bailey. Let's say pick one, Anthony. Who falls to 6?
Trey.
Okay, Trey Johnson. Let's say he turns into Devin Booker. Because Booker helped lead, although he hasn't won a title, he was the best player on that 2021 team that went 6 games with the Bucks and took Giannis being a freaking superhero to win. So let's say that he becomes Devin Booker level or whatever, Jalen Brunson level. He's an MVP, top 5 type of guy, and you're like, oh, that dude's actually good enough to win a title. Now you got to wait for him, which is the period that the Minnesota Timberwolves hope they're in right now. What they hope is that Anthony Edwards gets to that level. And the way he's playing, you'd obviously bet on it. But that's the thing about this series that I think highlights just how hard it is. And by the way, how special what the Thunder are doing. Because Shai's 26 years old now. Shai has now entered the window. And they have the right guys around him. The right vets, guys like Caruso, who is hilariously the oldest player on that team. You have guys like Jalen Williams, who are younger. And they have had the way that their seasons have gone, they've been able to play those guys. And so those guys probably are basketball-wise, experience-wise, older than their age. They've seen more than the average players at that age, which is something that I'm sure if the Wizards are probably counting on. And so it's so bizarre because you have to build the team that you think gives you the best chance to win the title. And in doing so, you might acquire one of the 30 best players in the league who's really great, and then all of a sudden, because of a matchup, becomes useless. And then I think the question is, like, for a guy like Gobert, okay, how do we avoid that? And I think for Gobert, it's like, well, he's a very specific kind of player. There's no star wing who becomes useless. There are guys that maybe you want to sit in offense-defense substitutions late. But even, early in the Warriors run, like, teams would try to target Steph. He had to be good. Once he got, like, good enough defensively, they took off to a different level. And now even, like, he's a good defender. The way he gets steals, you can't target him the way you used to. And so I don't know if there was a point there other than it's really hard to win an NBA championship. But I think this series has put it on display in a way that is pretty interesting here over the course of these playoffs, where you have these Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, on down the list, guys who go from useful to useless, or occasionally you get the guy that's useless in one series and becomes the key cog in another. And I'm sure that we'll see that too.
Yeah, but I also just think it's a revolving door when it comes to Rudy in the playoffs. Like, usually it's teams targeting him in the pick and roll, but now it's the Thunder trying to use his lack thereof, of an offensive skill set against him by, forcing him to be the one to put the ball on the ground, make the plays. And Rudy Gobert put the ball on the ground. Come on now.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the difference between the really good players and the best players. Yeah. Steph Curry went from defensive liability to defensive, not like, oh, that guy's going to make an all-defensive team, but like, you can't really, like, if you pick on Steph Curry and get that far away from your offense, it might not go great for you.
Yeah.
And Rudy Gobert has never developed enough of an offensive game or developed the dexterity as a defender, if as great as he has been, and let's not understate the greatness, the dexterity to not be targeted like that in the pick and roll, and obviously offensively to not allow it so that you can't play off of him and mess up everything for everything else. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, Kevin Sheehan had an interesting discussion about the Commanders' running back room. We'll pick up where he left off next. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Ben Standig will join us. Of course, Ben is, he's a contributor here to the station because he filled in for Chris Russell last week. And you're just like, hey, Standig's back on a mic. Love that. But the Commanders beat reporter for The Athletic is his day job. He hosts the Last Man Standing podcast as well. And he's got the latest on whether or not there is even anything to report on the Terry McLaurin front in terms of the contract negotiations and the extension and him not being in practice for some of this week and what to look forward to next week when it comes to OTAs and all that stuff as well. So when we get there, we'll have a bunch of running backs on the field. Running backs are fun to watch in non-padded practices because they score a touchdown in every touch, which is a nice trick. When nobody's allowed to tackle you, you just keep on running. Then you get to yell at your teammates, be like, nobody touched me. And you're like, yeah, those are the rules. Brian Robinson is, of course, going to enter the season as RB1. You have Austin Eckler back. You have Jeremy McNichols. You have guys like Michael Wiley, who were around last year, still floating. But then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the 7th-round pick, is also in the mix there. And some people are pretty excited about that. Some people think that's a terrible room that desperately needs an upgrade. Kevin Sheehan talked about it on his show a couple days ago. Here was his take, and then we can respond and pick up the conversation from there.
Washington clearly in the NFC, the worst running back room of the contenders, the perceived contenders. That's not even debatable. Is it important, though, to have elite level or high level running backs to go on to win the Super Bowl? I don't know. Not necessarily. But it certainly seems to be a more important position today than it was a few years ago. So is it good enough if you view this team to be a Super Bowl contender? And if not, what should they do about it? I have said for several weeks running, I would definitely look into Chubb and I would look into Dobbins. 100% would look into both of them to check their health, to see what it would take to bring them into the running back room. It can't be a big deal, right? Like a 1 year, $5-6 million, some of it guaranteed, some of it incentive, that's what it's going to be. So I can't imagine somebody's getting 1 year, $10 million, 1 year, even $8 million fully guaranteed of those two guys. But I would look into both of them. And Dobbins coming off an MCL sprain and, the best year of his career might be the more realistic one to look at.
So there's a couple things that Kevin talks about that I think are worth double-clicking on. First things first. Do you need an elite running back to win a championship? Well, last year, the Eagles, they had Saquon Barkley, Sean Barkley. He was a big old factor in their championship run. Anthony, the previous two Super Bowls were won by the Kansas City Chiefs. Who was the running back?
Kareem Hunt, and the most recent one, I guess, and then Isaiah Pacheco and the other one.
Yeah, Pacheco, 7th-round pick, not elite. Kareem Hunt bounced around, not elite at this stage of his career. Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl in February of 2022. Who was their running back?
It wasn't Kyron Williams.
I think it was before Kyron Williams.
It wasn't Todd Gurley. He was hurt.
Yeah, Gurley.
Oh, it was Sony Michel, wasn't it?
Yeah, what's he doing now?
That's a great question, Craig.
I think I've made my point. Previous to that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had Leonard Fournette. He was important.
He was toting that rock.
He was important to them. And he was one of the better backs in the league for a period of time. 2020, it was the Chiefs again. The Patriots, like James White, was very important to them.
He's a playoff killer,
right? But like he's not an elite running back down the list of teams that did not have elite running backs. So, do you need an elite running back? No, unless you're making the argument that the Eagles have set off this new path, and that you look at some of the Super Bowl losers. San Francisco had Christian McCaffrey. That helped them get there. If you look at the Lions, the number 1 seed in the NFC last year, they've got Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a premier playmaker at the position. And so clearly having a good running back isn't a bad thing. But I think this is actually a pretty interesting conversation to have on the heels of our last conversation about how to build a champion in the NBA, where I kind of think there's one way to do it. You have an elite player, you surround him with complementary skill sets. You probably need actually multiple elite players, but definitely need to surround your number one unquestioned guy with guys that complement his skill set perfectly, fill out the holes and the gaps. You have all the roles assigned, and then you probably need someone to play out over their skis. Like if you're the Denver Nuggets, you need Jamal Murray to play like a top 10 player like he did for that playoff run where you win a championship. And then all of a sudden you realize a couple years later, maybe Jamal Murray is more of a top 25 player than a top 10 player, but he damn sure played like a top 10 player when they won a championship. You know, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday were incredible in that run for the Bucks. On down the list, you need guys to play at an elevated level for short spurts, and there's an element of luck in that, but it starts with get the guy, surround him with the right other guys. There's no right way to do it in the NFL. The easiest way, in some respects, is get the elite quarterback, surround him with the right pieces. Hopefully he's still on the tail end of his rookie contract when you're really good and you can overpay for some of those pieces and you're in a good spot. And then when that quarterback is getting paid, can you find a couple of other gems in the draft? Like the only thing that has to happen guaranteed is your stars have to play like stars and you need some stars that are on rookie contracts. So the guys that are getting paid got to play well. And then the guys that are not eligible to get paid yet also have to play well. But what positions they're at is less important as long as you have competent quarterback play. And that becomes a very different discussion, right? The best way to do it is to have Mahomes or Brady or whoever, but you can win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. You can win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. You can win a Super Bowl with, Jalen Hurts. They put Jalen Hurts in the right positions. He's more of a win-with guy than a win-'cause of guy, but he straddles that line, and they make it so that they win because of Jalen Hurts. And so I think the question is, if you're the Commanders, like, is premier running back something that is worth it to you? And my answer would be no. 301-230-0980 is the phone number to give us yours, 301-230-0980. And the short version, Anthony, of why is because you have Jaden Daniels. Because your running game is always going to be better because of his existence. You have an elite passing game by the nature of his existence. I would rather spend my money and my resources complimenting him and lifting him up and knowing that any NFL quality running back is going to be good here without me having to spend on it, and then also throw resources at defense. So this idea that you need to go get a veteran, or especially, God forbid, you need to trade for one, like, I am all the way out on that for this year and basically for the rest of Jaden Daniels' prime.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of the question, and I'm just looking at Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, I think those three are in an upper echelon of running backs. Guys you can hand the ball off. They can make something out of nothing because we've seen it happen before. You know, when Christian McCaffrey was with the Panthers, when Barkley was with the Giants, we've seen them, make something out of nothing. And now that they're behind, tremendous offensive lines and have this great running attack, I think it just increases their value. I would just say if we can just have a running attack similar to like the Browns, I feel like when Nick Chubb went down, they plugged in all these different running backs, Jerome Ford and, the I forgot his first name, something Johnson. They were still effective in their running game because they had an effective running attack. So I think that's where the argument should really go to, whether it's should the Commanders, focus more on, some type of, rushing scheme that takes a little bit of the load off of Jaden Daniels and, how to optimize it. So I think that's more so where it should be as opposed to like having a premier running back.
I will say, as you mentioned some of the guys that you just mentioned that are the elite of the elite, an interesting counter argument does come to play. We'll talk about that and take your calls at 301-230-0980 next. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Ben Standig coming up at 5 o'clock, talking Commanders, as are we right now. So we're talking about the running back situation and whether or not the Commanders need to upgrade their running back room. And I think ultimately my answer is no, Anthony, both based off the current available options and based off of my general thoughts of how important running back is to this team. But as we were going through this team part of it, and you mentioned the guys who, like, of course, would be super valuable to add because they're awesome football players, which is, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, the three best backs in the league over the last 5 years. It's not lost on me that Saquon plays with a mobile quarterback in Jalen, and Derrick Henry just had a resurgent season playing next to Lamar Jackson. And it's like, what happens if you give and this is, to me, always a question, right? Is sometimes coaches fail superstars by simply asking them to be superstars. And it's like, well, what would happen if you put a superstar in ideal circumstances, right? It's Steph Curry with the Warriors, right? Steph Curry probably would have figured out how to become a great Hall of Fame NBA basketball player no matter what. You put him in their offense, and he's one of the 10 best players probably ever. That take just blew some brains, but that's fine. I think Steph Curry is a top 10 player, and I have no problem fighting about it another day. But he's the best version of himself, right? And we talk about this with players all the time. If you play out X player's career 20 times, are you seeing the 18th worst version of it? Are you seeing the 10th best version of it? Are you seeing the best? You play Steph Curry's career out. I don't know how it could possibly play out much better than this, outside of Klay Thompson not blowing his Achilles and tearing his ACL, and Kevin Durant not blowing his Achilles in 2019. Outside of that stuff, outside of his control, I don't know how much better Steph's career can go. Because even when he's gotten hurt, like the ankle stuff kind of made him change the way he trained and launched him into this. And then he gets hurt again with the thumb in 2021. And the work he does that offseason, along with like even the COVID break, he just bulks up and gets stronger, and that launches them into the 2022 championship and this back four holes of his career where he's still hitting birdies. And you're like, well, damn. So what happens if you put a star running back in ideal circumstances? And I would say playing with Cliff in the way he designs the run game next to Jaden Daniels behind a much better offensive line and will, eventually, hopefully a great offensive line. That would be cool. But the question for me is, what's the opportunity cost? And that's the harder part, right? And that's why, like, bringing in Dobbins or Chubb right now, to bring it full circle, I'm really not that interested in. In 2025, is J.K. Dobbins that much better than Austin Eckler? Probably not. Age-wise, production-wise, coming off the MCL. Like, I don't know how much better J.K. Dobbins is than Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler. I don't think that Nick Chubb's going to be better than those guys. Not that they weren't in their primes. Dobbins was really, really good in Baltimore. And Chubb was unbelievable in Cleveland. But, like, his knee got shredded. The chances that he's going to be that as an older back post-injury are just not very high. And so if that's the case, and even if they're slightly better, aren't you better off just investing the time into the guys that you have, giving Ja'Cory Cross, not bumping him down to 6th on the depth chart by bringing in a couple of extra vets to compete? Oh, we want to compete. Yeah, but eventually there's only so many reps to go around. And that's why I'm just not that interested in, like, sure, kick the tires, call their agents, see how much it would cost, see what their health status is. If they were down to go do a workout, bring them in. Whatever. And if you think they can be way better than the guys you got, I trust Adam Peters enough that if he signs J.K. Dobbins, I think there's a reason. You also want to know how they are to do your due diligence, because if one of your guys gets hurt, you want to bring in someone you can trust. But right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to bring in a guy that I don't think is going to be better than what you have. And that seems fairly straightforward to me.
Yeah, I think signing one of those guys off the street signifies to the room that that guy is the starter kind of thing. And I don't think that's sort of kind of the message you want to send. Also, I think Brian Robinson, I think people have just been so quick to, write him off.
I agree.
And I don't fully understand why. Yeah, he had the bad game against the Eagles where he had all the fumbles. But outside of that, like when he's been healthy, he's been pretty productive. And also, part of some of his lack of production was due to, you know, our offensive line not being able to get some of that push against that stout defensive front of the Eagles. I'm not going to put that all on Brian Robinson. So, again, I think the tandem we had last year with B-Rob and Eckler, I think definitely is good enough. And I don't think we necessarily need an upgrade right away kind of thing.
No, I mean, you do in the long term because all these guys are on one-year deals. So you're going to have to adjust it eventually. I'm not saying it can't get better. It's just there's only so – this is not Madden with the salary cap turned off. Like, there's a salary cap, and also you can't just go create – you can't take a free agent that's a 62 and go edit the settings and be like, oh, look, there's an 85 free agent out there. Like, that's not how it works. You're at the mercy of what's actually available to you from an option standpoint, and I just don't think the options are that much better than what you got. And at that point, what's the point? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, Ben Standig with all the latest Commanders news here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. It is just after 5 o'clock, meaning it's time for Not My Beat. Coming up at 5:30, Mike Golic Jr. on why, again, I'm going to do it again. I'm so sorry. But the idea that Josh Connerly could play guard is not the worst idea that's ever happened in the history of the planet. As part of a larger discussion on interior offensive line play and the value of it, because that's what we're talking about here on May 23rd. All right, let's get to it today. Commanders OTAs open next week. Let's get the latest news with Ben Standing.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Ben Standing, Commanders beat reporter for The Athletic with us. Standing, happy Friday, sir. How you doing?
What's up, Craig? I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. So I'm going to ask you the annoying question first, but we're going to do it because it was a thing that happened this week. There was a voluntary practice. Terry McLaurin wasn't there. Of course, he would like a new contract because he's entering the final year of his deal, and some people think that's a bigger deal than others. What can you tell us about Terry missing practice and the latest on his ongoing contract negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, unless I'm missing something, I don't think this is really a big deal. You know, this whole, going back even before this regime, with Rivera and before, we always seem to make a bigger deal about when guys are not, especially veteran players, are not at one of these voluntary practices, either because if they're missing it, it's a sign of something, or, why would somebody miss it? But so many other teams, they don't have anywhere close to perfect attendance for these things, or some guys don't show up or whatever, and it's not as big of a deal. So I just think it's the mentality that we've sort of grown accustomed to here, that guys just show up. And last year there was, I think, more or less perfect attendance. So, look, if you tell me that we get to the start of training camp and Terry still hasn't signed an extension, then I think we can maybe get nervous about what's going on here. But beyond that, I think they eventually get something done. I don't think it's a huge deal or any deal at all that he missed the other day. But I understand why we're talking about it. But yeah, I don't think it's much. I know they've been negotiating. I think they'll eventually get something done.
I totally agree. And to be fair, I'm not on Twitter anymore because that place sucks. But were people even making a big deal out of this? Jordan Schultz reported it. It's fine to report the basic facts. And, Schultz, said hey, he's negotiating for a new contract. So there's some insinuation there that maybe this is contract related, but he didn't say explicitly that it was. And I don't know that anybody freaked out. Ben, do we deserve a pat on our backs collectively as fans and media for handling this responsibly, or did I miss something?
No, that's fair. I am still on Twitter, social media, but I didn't necessarily live there this week. And so maybe there were people freaking out. But yeah, I didn't notice anything in particular. One thing you can tell, if there was something going on, more than Jordan Schultz would have been putting it out there, So, I think relatively speaking, it's been fairly mild. But yes, I still, some people in my life have texted me, hey, what's going on here? And I'm like, don't worry, go back to, catching up on Severance or something. You're fine. You don't have to worry about this.
It is funny how sometimes now in the modern media environment, we anticipate the backlash, and then sometimes I feel like it doesn't even come, or then we elevate one person doing the silly thing. And then sometimes, look, the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese stuff over the weekend, we anticipated the backlash, and everyone made their, first take producers are doing cartwheels jokes, and then boy, did they deliver in the worst possible way. So, it happens, but by the same token, I think sometimes people anticipate backlash or whatever, hoopla that doesn't actually come. And it does feel like this was hey, he missed practice. Okay. Talk to me next week. And then maybe even weeks after that. As for next week, Ben, what are the things that you are looking for as the Commanders open up their offseason program to the media? Wednesday is the open session. What will you spend your time watching and looking at?
Look, I think it's just for me, it's really going to be okay. Cool. First time we're seeing Laramie Tunsil out on the field. Presumably he'll be there out on the field with his new teammates. Same thing with Debo Samuel. We did already see the rookies at rookie camp a couple weeks ago, but this is now we'll see them out on the field with their teammates. Look, I think it's always going to be interesting to some degree to see just everybody in uniform. Does anybody look like they've put on some muscle? Gotten look a little quicker, whatever it might be, things along those lines. If there's somebody out there, if there's somebody who's dealing with an injury that we don't know about, perhaps that'll become more front and center if they're not participating. I don't. Beyond that, they'll do some drills, they'll do some football things, but I'm not going to get overly worked up over a ton. But yeah, it'll be good to see everybody kind of back together. We will hear from Dan Quinn. Presumably, we're going to hear from Cliff Kingsbury, and obviously with Kingsbury, just get his view and how does his offense look now following the various changes. They got obviously two new offensive linemen tackles in Tunsil and Connerly, Debo as well, and of course Jaden Daniels entering his second year. How's he look, and is anything different? I guess ultimately for me it's going to be a lot of is anything seemed off? Because not that I'm looking for the negative, but just what last year so much was right. Is anything off? Hopefully the answer is no, and then there's nothing to see. But that's I think it's still it's super early beyond that to get worked up over any particular player or this or that or the other. But just to see what's going on, take attendance, check everybody out, and make sure everything looks copacetic.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the number one thing. I was like, oh, that's not right. If that happens, then okay. We already know that Jaden is jacked. We saw that on Instagram, and the Commanders put together a very funny meme to go with it. So good job, social media team. Kudos to you. But I also am curious if there's anything that's feels different from last year, and I don't necessarily mean that as a negative. Like last year, because it was our first time seeing Quinn. It was like, okay, how does he run things? Like, to me, what are some of the potential evolution points that you're looking to? And I don't know whether we'll see them in the spring at all, Ben, but as you think about the changes this team can make in year two, having a year one underneath them, as successful as it was, is a nice bonus. But some of the upgrades or evolutions, what are the things that you're looking forward to in year two?
Yeah, I think last year at this point, the one thing you stood out, you mentioned, just how does Dan Quinn run the show, but then also you had the guys who had been around, your Terrys, your John Allens, share, hey, well, this does feel a little bit different. There's a new voice, a new message, what have you, and that was an early indication that, there was something resonating here with these players. I guess you could say, you mentioned Tunsil and Debo and guys like that. The new players, the interesting thing about building a culture is it gets tested every year because, new people enter it. And, just does everybody feel like they're still on the same page? There's also things like they are, updating the locker room, right? And I don't know that it's going to be ready by the time OTA starts, but just, hey, here's another new thing that's happening. Is that what does that mean to you that they are doing this? For guys who've been around here for a long minute, that's obviously a big deal to whatever the upgrades are ultimately going to be. That they're putting in more money and more investing for this team, and I'm sure that will go a long way towards for a lot of these guys. So like I said, I think the vibe and all that, and to sort of. Just to go back to Jaden in particular, does it, he's still a young guy. He obviously had such an incredible year, but this was he'd already won the Heisman coming into the league, so it's not like this is the first time he's ever gotten attention, but the attention went even next level compared to that. And, how did he handle it? Does anything seem different, off? Do the players even subtly just sort of talk about him in ways that are different? And maybe those differences are positives, but just whatever it may be, what in his 25th year on this earth, or what's going on, and how does that, how are others reacting to him? I suspect we're not going to see anything crazy. Everything seems pretty normal in that space. But it's sometimes it's the subtle things that you just don't know. You're not even the questions you're asking, but just the way that somebody or some people react, or things that they bring up that can always spark an interesting train of thought.
That's such a great call. And Ben Zadig is with us from The Athletic here on the Hoffman Show for Not My Beat today. Because one of the things that I thought was really interesting last year was how guys in that locker room talked about Jaden. There was a reverence for him that is not usually seen with rookies. Like, to see some of the vets be like, if we got 5, we got a chance. And it's like, this is like his 7th game, right? Like, it's not how this works. And they're like, it does with him. And so to see what that is like now that he's got some additional star power and, all the different storylines and, his mom's given the interview to the Pivot and he's doing Nike ads and, he's a part of the unveil and doing stuff in Europe for NFL Spain. Like there's just so much around him now. And I personally, just to be clear to the fans that are ready to yell at their radios right now, I feel like he is built to handle that kind of stuff in a way that's different than, say, Robert Griffin III in 2013. But I do think that's an interesting shout to say, like, how do people react? And I think, Ben, also moving forward, you're going to start having players, both draftees and free agents, that come in that didn't know him back when. Like, it's one thing when Bobby Wagner's like, yeah, well, I knew him when he was the rookie and hadn't done anything yet, and I came up with him. Or Mike Sainristil will always be able to be like, yeah, I've been here the whole time. Now that you get new guys in that are coming in part, like if you're Debo, to play with Jaden, I think that's a really interesting dynamic that is going to play out here in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, and to go back to the initial question about Terry and did we not make we didn't make a big deal necessarily about him missing a voluntary practice. It says something also about the person. We know that there are other players in the league, certainly other receivers in the league, that if they had missed, it would feel like, oh boy, this is a signal of something, right? Because whatever, they want the new deal and this is how they're kind of handling it. But you kind of have a feeling like, oh boy, there might be something here. But with Terry, you don't, because there's been zero reason to ever think anything along those lines based on anything that he's done over his time. And, Jaden's only been here for 1 year, but sort of the same thing. It would be, fairly stunning if there was some major, change in personality. And, like I said, it's a lot of just, where is he at now as a person? I mean, we're going to, if everything works out, we're all going to be watching Jaden Daniels evolve, not just as a player, but as a person for many years to come. And, in terms of that, evolution, outside of, say, winning a Super Bowl or something along those lines, this is going to be probably the biggest opportunity for growth or maturity or change because of, it was that dynamic and the team had such an incredible year that none of us saw coming. And, the best, total year in franchise history since 1991. So, this is a pretty significant moment in time for everybody involved. So, yeah, I mean, it would be reasonable that things could be different, but that different doesn't always mean negative. It just means, hey, how's it going? What was it like to get this more attention? And even if he, like I said, even if he doesn't talk about it, how do the other people react to him? Because even last year, you're already starting to hear hey, he's the one who's getting here at 5 a.m. He's one of the first guys in the locker room. You mentioned the RG3. Yeah, there's zero sense of drama, like none with this kid relative to many other quarterbacks or players we've had around here. So, yeah, I just, again, just to sort of see the evolution and how he's progressing, again, both as a player and a person, I think is going to be, continue to be an interesting story.
2 more questions for Ben Standig here on the Hoffman Show. One, I don't call it serious, is overselling it. One substantive, one silly. The substantive one first, Ben. How done do you think this roster is? Like, we know that there can be injuries and things that happen, and if there's someone who's cut unexpectedly, there's always a chance that there is a newsworthy addition to the club. There will certainly be all kinds of churn at the bottom of the roster because it's the NFL and that's how that goes. But are you pretty confident that the group that they're going to go into OTAs with next week is, a very, very, very high percentage of what they're going to go into for training camp, and then the starting 22 for this club are going to come out of the group that is already here?
Yeah, I would think so. Even going like into the draft, and obviously they only had the 5 picks, but even then, if you looked at the roster, I remember thinking like, boy, I could probably get pretty close here to the final 53 outside of these 5 picks, and feel like, yeah, this looks to be the group. And I think for the most part, that's the case. We've all talked a lot about the fact that they didn't draft an edge rusher. So, and I think, like running back is like one position on offense where I still wonder if there's an opportunity for something there. But yeah, I think for the most part, what we're looking at is what we're looking at. But I think also like the bigger picture for me on OTA, I don't think I said this already, is that it's not so much, it's obviously never really what we're watching, but it's what they are watching internally. And that's the question. Like, do they get through OTAs and think, boy, everybody's overreacting to our edge rusher and we're good. Dietrich Wise is giving us some good two-way play. Cleveland Farrell looks healthy. Javon Kinlaw is going to help us more on the edge than people think, whatever. Or do they look at some situations and think, I know Matt Bowen the other day on ESPN said maybe J.K. Dobbins would make some sense here at running back. Maybe he's kind of right in terms of needing a little bit more explosive play out of there. Or, we thought we had a little bit more at, position X, and maybe we do need a little bit, another body or two. So I don't think it's going to be much of anything, but sure, that's the there could be one or two spots where they're like, yeah, we do need something more, but I'd be surprised if it's much in the way of, headlinery type moves or really even notable additions. But yeah, sure, there could be one, maybe two at some point.
And finally, Ben Standig, part of Hard Knocks is that the reporters sometimes wind up in the background or in the foreground. Are you, sir, looking forward to being on Hard Knocks?
I had Nikki Del Valle on my podcast the other day, and one of the topics was, are we going to spend more money on our wardrobe in case we make the TV? I think that I said anything about the wardrobe, but maybe I'll shave a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it could be kind of fun. I've not, other than that one time when Hard Knocks, right, was that when the Texans were in town back in Richmond. Other than that, I haven't been around. So yeah, I'm kind of curious as to see how it goes. I mean, the fact that they're only one quarter of the Hard Knocks shouldn't make it a huge deal. But look, obviously with this team right now, everything's a big deal. Everybody's paying attention. So yeah, it could be cool. And I got to make sure I'm wearing my clean underwear and that type of deal every day. So yeah, it should be all right.
Yeah, I mean, well, if your underwear winds up on Hard Knocks, Ben, something has gone horribly wrong. But I mean, that's I think general good hygiene. Also, like, I'm excited to see. Like, I can't show up more because my show starts at 4. If like all of a sudden, I don't know, some radio person or TV person that doesn't typically show up starts just showing up every day trying to get on Hard Knocks, we all know why. And I think we nominate Sam Fortier to call that person out. That's my own personal opinion.
Call that person out or be that person? Which one?
I said call out. You said what you said, but he's there every day. But I do get the sentiment. Yeah. Where Fortier, he might just try to slide. The HBO. I'm going to go on this side of the scrum. We're on to you, Fortier. We're on to you, Ben.
That will be the interesting thing. You're right. Camera, where you stand in the scrum, that type of deal. That could get interesting for sure.
Well, we all know Keim's going to be in the front with his phone. That's what it's going to be. Keim just there getting that video. That's become the standard.
Everybody's got to do what they got to do. It's a multimedia world. You gotta be involved, and you got to be front and center if you want to take cameras from shots with your camera. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll we can get John Keim's video through the HBO cameras. Ben Standig, everybody. Read his work at The Athletic. We cover in OTAs. The open sessions on Wednesday. Cliff Kingsbury speaks. So we'll hear what Cliff has to say. Ben will be writing about it for The Athletic. And then obviously the Last Man Standing podcast. Ben, thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Craig, always appreciate it, man. Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, that's Ben Standig with us here on the Hoffman Show. Some interesting stuff there. I was debating, Anthony, whether I go back into the running back thing with Ben, and ultimately, obviously, decided that we didn't quite have enough time. But I think what he said is correct, and isn't that different than what I said? Is like, if an opportunity presents itself, and if even you think J.K. Dobbins is a significant upgrade over what you have right now, you should push that button. There's no reason not to. You have, like, it's the NFL. It stands for not for long. There's not a lot of loyalty in this league. You have the cap space to play with. If you genuinely think J.K. Dobbins is better than, you think he's more of a Robinson role guy or an Eckler role guy? Am I putting too much in his pass catching abilities because he's another small, guy that's built like Eckler, or is he more the first and second down guy?
I mean, at Ohio State, we saw him do it all. So
yeah,
I mean,
if you think he's
at this point in his career, I would say more B-Rob, just because what we saw him do last year in LA.
Yeah, like, okay, fine. If you're better at running the football than B-Rob on first and second down, then sure. If they think he's that much better, bring him on in. I just don't know at the age he's at, coming off of the MCL, if that's actually the case, and whether I wouldn't just rather give some of those reps to B-Rob and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt or whoever else. So that's, if you sign him, it's not like, oh, well, B-Rob's only on a 1-year deal. What do you think you're signing Dobbins for? So that's kind of where I'm at.
He did have a career year, and it was a sprain. So I don't know.
Hold on.
I still wouldn't do it.
J.K. Dobbins. He was hurt for a time. I mean, he's only 26, which is nice, but like, so is B-Rob.
He was cooking though.
Brian Robinson. How old is Brian Robinson? Brian Robinson is 26 years old. Okay,
he's older than J.K. I think J.K. 25.
He's 26. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
And then last year, he had 905 yards on 195 carries. It was he also only played 13 games. In 2023, he played 1 game. In 2022, he played 8 games. And then he had only 134 attempts his rookie season. So, like, yeah, he's a good player. He last year was better than Brian Robinson. But is he going to be able to come into this scheme and do it? There's probably a reason why he's not signed yet if he's that good. And that would kind of be my question, is like, why isn't anywhere? Maybe he wants more money. Maybe he's waiting for an opportunity, but why hasn't anyone else signed him either? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, Mike Golic Jr. joined Take Command for a conversation about the value of the different parts of the offensive line. Everyone's, trying to figure out how valuable is a guard? How valuable is a tackle? As the Commanders spent a first-round pick on Josh Connerly Jr. We let you hear that conversation between me, Logan, and Gojo next here on the Team 980. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Take command this week. We got Mike Golic, or I should say tail end of the week. We had a great mailbag earlier in the week. You can get your mailbag questions in for Monday's episode for me and Logan by shooting me an email, hoffmanshow.com. Use the contact link or hit me on Instagram at hoffman.sports. But we have Mike Golic Jr. on as our guest on the tail end of the week show. And this is only like half of the conversation. We had Gojo for almost 40 minutes. He was awesome. Logan and I also talked a little bit about Hard Knocks and the Tush Push and a bunch of other stuff. So definitely check out the full episode this weekend. But this part of our conversation concentrated on the ongoing debate of the value of interior offensive linemen in the NFL. This has been a topic of discussion on our show because Josh Conerly Jr. is going to compete for the right tackle spot. But what happens if Brandon Coleman's better or Andrew Wiley's better for 2025? Is it a waste if Josh Conerly is playing guard in 2025 or even in 2026? And, who knows, for the rest of his career as the 29th pick? That's where we pick up the conversation and the debate. Here's me, Logan Paulson, and Gojo, Mike Golic Jr. Do we think there has actually been a change in the way NFL football is played that has made interior linemen more valuable, or is it a recognition of something that has always been true, and now we're just seeing the values catch up?
No, I think definitely, and this is weird because we're sort of watching the pendulum swing back a little bit on this, but in general, the last decade's been about the spread revolution of the game, right? More pace and space, getting as many athletic bodies as you can out there, more of an 11 personnel and nickel league, all those different things, which have, like they did in college for a bunch of years, put a premium on your defender's ability in the box to go ahead and handle business. It's why, in the college level, Alabama, Georgia, these programs that have run a bunch of, 3-down mint front stuff that put 5.5 guys in the box handling the run game, so you can allocate more resources towards what's going on at wide receiver with all the RPO stuff, with all the spread out throws. It puts a premium on defensively. Can you have those guys hold up in the box, which to your point makes defensive tackle more valuable because you want the fastest path to the quarterback. You need a guy that's also able to eat up space in the run game when people do decide to hand it off. And so what is that then on offense? Guard. And so, you go all the way back to when Quentin also was coming out in the draft, kind of that time where people were starting free. Like that was probably, the peak of Aaron Mania. It's like, man, find ways to stop guys in there that are going to get put on an island. That's the other part too. Defensive coach smart. Spread out a little bit. They said, all right, we're going to put load fronts here. We're going to get all up fronts. We're going to guys one-on-one match, and we're going to move our Myles Garretts. We're going to move all our lighter defenders down in the middle and try and get misses against these guys. So they're going to go and pick their wherever they can get it, and the inside's the path to the quarterback. And so I think like structural changes in football put more of an emphasis on guard and what can be done there. And then, you combine it with that was maybe you still had few quarterbacks in the league. A lot of these guys can help now in terms of mitigating, quarterback sackages. Like those are on them. Like Parks taken as a quarterback stat. But I think in general, guarding that fastest quarterback, even at a time, or especially at a time where the ball was coming out quicker for a lot, all those things made them inherently more valuable.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of, I think technically, like to what you're saying, there's a lot of merit, but I'll like back to, playing with 2010. Obviously, my college career started in 2005. Like the coaching quarterback has always been up in the pocket, up, kind of fill in that space, get to your drop, fill in the gap. So I look at it and it's always important, right? It's always been important, but I do think as in back passing stuff more, kind of what you're talking about, even less specific than the type of fronts that they're seeing in college. As you get into drop back passing stuff more, like the step up to save the tackles, to kind of let the tackles run that edge and preserve the pocket becomes more and more important. I think about, New Orleans with Drew Brees is maybe like the most archetypical example of this, in that like they always went out and found mammoth, excellent pass protecting guards that were able to keep great depth in the pocket so that Drew Brees could move around in there. Look at New England. Like Tom Brady did a great job of maximizing those three interior players. And so it's funny that it's just becoming kind of now back in vogue in terms of payment structure. But to me, it's always been there. And I think, again, like it's probably more getting away from, like I think about the guards that I played with here with Mike Shanahan. They were all smaller, kind of squirrely guys that were really great run blockers, struggled in pass pro, and you're able to hide them with like keepers and boots and play action pass. But now when you're just in like 5-on-5, let's get 5 eligibles out, I feel like that's maybe another reason why is that because like kind of like we were talking about the pendulum, like it's so pass focused. Those guys need to be excellent at keeping the depth of the pocket and in a way that they weren't asked to do 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think
100%. That was always the coaching point was tackles control the width, interior guys, we control the depth. 100%.
Well, and then you have like what's in vogue at the quarterback position, right? And Brady famously hated pressure in his face. Like that was the way to get to Tom Brady. And not that any quarterback is like sick. I love pressure in my face. But Mahomes, I think, discovered this year, like I'd rather have pressure in my face so I can see it and get away. And this goes back to the fact that now basically every quarterback has a baseline of mobility. Otherwise, you can't play the position in the league anymore. They're like, if I can see the pressure, then I can escape it. Versus for, Brady, it was like, if I see the pressure, I can't go anywhere. And that pressure is now in my lap and I'm just toast. So for Mahomes, when they, went through all their offensive line struggles this year, it was the tackle pressure that he just was like, get that away from me. If I can see it, I can move, I can find pockets, whatever. But and so I also wonder, like, is that just a specific Patrick Mahomes thing where he's a unicorn? Because he's a unicorn in a million ways. But is there going to be a pendulum shift on how the mobility of the quarterbacks affects the offensive line play and kind of where teams send help, where teams are attacking defensively, and how that cycle turns and twists? Logan, why are you shaking your head so?
That's a bad example.
Because he's Patrick Mahomes?
No, it's a bad example because the tackle play in Kansas City was so bad. It just, I don't know, Mike, if you agree with this, but it made the offense non-tenable from a drop back standpoint, right? So unless they were doing quick game shot play off of 3-step footwork, it wasn't work because like they had that rookie guy in there, they had Sumataya, they had some other guys in there, and it was literally like quick wins. And we talked about this on a previous podcast, but the most devastating thing in terms of protection is a quick win. And so if you're just like a spinning turnstile gate there, I don't care how good you are at quarterback, you're going to feel that, So I think that's maybe not the best situation. It was just such an untenable situation for the quarterback in Kansas City, in my opinion. So
I completely agree. There's always kind of like a debate on offensive line of, the value of having one great guy versus just like, what if you had an O-line full of like guys that are good, like above average starter level?
Let's call them the 2024 Washington Commanders.
Well, but if you have like one really weak link, it undermines the rest of it in that group. Like it really is a 5-as-1 group in a way that I completely agree with that point. And I think in general about like the idea of where you want pressure to come from, I think it with the mobile guys where it affects it more to me than this idea of like, oh, do I want pressure in the middle versus pressure in the right? Like quarterbacks just always want to know where it's going to come from structurally, period. Like we see plenty of looks
that's
where,
probably fair.
Hey, I got to slide the whole line that way. I know I'm hot on this side. I know these guys are going to be coming here. So again, even if we are all sliding the wrong way and they end up dropping and coming from that way, at least I know where I'm protected. That's always a premium for these guys. I think the mobile quarterback thing kind of goes back to the conversation we're having already, which is it in a lot of cases, like, yes, the ball can come out quick, but with a lot of these guys, playmaker wiring. Like we saw it, at the umpteenth level, Jaden does plenty of it. Caleb Williams over-indexed as a rookie last year in Chicago. A lot of these guys are able to and believe in their ability to make plays and extend the clock. And so you got to be able to hold a one-on-one matchup for way longer than you used to in a lot of these offenses. And so I think that goes back to, again, you got to have guys in the middle that can go and pass protect for a good long time. And then, oh, by the way, turn around and do it like Sean McVay and the Eagles and a lot of these other teams have decided, which is, all right, we got small middle linebackers all over the league right now and a real dearth of talent at that position. Not everybody's equipped with a Jalen Carter or these guys at defensive tackle. Let's run right up the middle. Let's bring a bunch of duo back into this situation. Like seeing Sean McVay, who was one of the Shanahan tree guys who was running a lot of that wide zone stuff, now all of a sudden become a duo, like heavy play action shot team. That's kind of an admission of, all right, if teams want to do all this jacking around at the line of scrimmage, if Baltimore wants to throw a bunch of simulated pressures at us, well, we'll run at them on third down. We'll go with the league-wide aggressiveness at fourth down, and we'll mess up the math on them by having capable beef at the interior spots.
Yeah, and I also think to that point, it also, like in my experience, like the better pass protection, everyone think better pass protection. Everyone think better run blockers are bigger guys, but to me, better pass protectors are bigger guys, and they tend to be a little bit slower footed in the run game. So like, why are we gonna like play the space game with these big pass protecting offensive linemen? Let's get downhill. Let's make this easy. Let's put in a phone booth. Let's let 330 fight with 225 and not have to chase that guy all over the field. So I do think it's an interesting kind of transition. Kind of you think, oh, they're going to get bigger to run the football, but they get bigger to pass protect better. And that's when you talk to Sean, excuse me, one of the things he always brings up is like we had to kind of change our personnel to accommodate this pocket structure that Matt Stafford likes, and they can't do the outside zone stuff. So it's interesting because like I love the schematic element you're talking about because like on paper you're like, yes, this is a good thing too, but it's a kind of a byproduct of the pocket depth and the pass protection issue, which I think is this really kind of counterintuitive way of looking at it, but it makes sense if you understand that pass protectors tend to be bigger, longer, heavier dudes because they can anchor a little bit better. At least that's been my experience.
Well, then it also plays into some of the quick game and the RPO stuff as well, because like you said earlier, Logan, while laughing at the Patrick Mahomes example, is like quick wins are the worst, and the quickest win is the internal one. And so if you're running an RPO, like if I'm Jalen Carter and I win immediately, I could still get pressure on an RPO. If I'm Myles Garrett and I got to loop around the edge, like Myles Garrett can get there in 1.8 seconds. Like he's as fast as you could possibly be, but it's still got to cover a certain amount of actual grass that the timing of like an RPO or a quick game. And Logan, we talked about it a ton last year. There were times where Jaden didn't even technically make the right read, but his release was so quick that he beat coverage anyway. You can do that stuff if you are a little weaker on the outside versus just stout enough inside to not lose right now. And then that plays into, obviously, the movement in the run game, the physicality, and all this other stuff that we've been talking about for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, well, and like to bring it back, like I think Logan's point about beef on the interior got reinforced. Like, God, going back before the injury and watching Sam Cosmi and just how big and strong that dude is, like, the technique's not always perfect, but it's good enough, and he's just such a damn grizzly bear out there that you're right. In pass protection, there are certain spots where other guys are getting walked back, and at some point, like you brought up the Sean Payton era Saints, I always think of Jari Evans. Like there'd be a point in almost every rush where Ja would just reset his hands and he would decide you're done going forward and actually start walking you back towards the line of scrimmage. And so Mike makes right on the interior. Like there is no substitute for size at some of those spots. And pass protection, the O-line saying is pass protection isn't passive. Like that's a dogfight, and you want guys that are equipped to go out there with enough ass to make it work.
So then I guess the final kind of question here is like, what is the value of all that? And it gets back to the monetary and the draft capital. And kind of the question is like, let's pretend everyone in the comments section gasp in horror. Let's pretend Josh Connerly turns into a guard. That he just like takes the left guard and maybe it's the left-right thing. Maybe just he is lost at right tackle, and in 3 years he could kick back out the left tackle because he's a left-sided offensive lineman, whatever that means. But for right now, he's playing guard. Is it a mistake to take a guard at 29? Like, is that a bad value, Logan?
I mean, I'll let Mike talk. For me, absolutely not. It goes back to Mike's point that he made, which I think a guard at 12 to me is not a miss because it's the weakest of the five. So if that's the weakest link, and all of a sudden, because we took a guard at 12, we now have a solid 5, that's the goal. That's the ultimate number one thing I care about in terms of protecting the most valuable asset on the field, which is quarterback. So yeah, so that's my opinion. I agree with Mike. You need a good 5. Like, let's get the best 5 we can on the field. If that's how Connolly gets on the field, and at 29, who cares? Great, let's play football.
100% right. Yeah, you just said it. Get your best 5 on the field. I don't care what it looks like, because we just said on the other side. What did you say before? Jalen Carter could make $40 million a year when it's time for him to get paid. They don't care where it's coming from, the production on the other side. If they've got a dude that's a beast, they're going to pay him because he gets to the quarterback no matter where you line him up. Why wouldn't it be the same on the other side? Like, I feel like we've come a long way. Like, tackle vanity is kind of like the quarterback ego trip for fans where, if I have a franchise quarterback, I'm better than 90% of the league. We're set at the position that's really hard to find. And that's why you get, arguments about Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa over the years, because fan bases want to feel secure in having the guy at that spot. Left tackle's not a far cry from that. It's been one of the glamour positions in the NFL. It's the blind side. It's all these things we've been told historically. And over the last decade, we've been like, hey, they put good pass rushers over the right tackle too. Like, why is that any less difficult? Especially in a day and age where more of it is 5 and 6 man protection and less like true slide protection where, yeah, you are sending guys away from that. Right tackle's on an island a bunch. Right tackle can get put in a compromised position, and we started to see the value there. And I think the same thing goes for guard. There are good guys rushing all over the defense. Get your best 5 out there, however it organizes. And hell, if you've got guys that can do multiple things, look at Elton Jenkins and what a coup he's been for the Packers. Having a guy that's that good, you can put at that many spots, always makes you better, not worse.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think the other thing, it's like physically, it's probably harder to find the athlete for tackle, but in terms of value to the group, like, you need 5 good ones. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing to fans. Like, yes, it's really hard to find that, 6'7", 325, 35-inch arm guy that moves like a basketball player. Like you said, Laramie Tunsil has basketball player feet, but again, it's also hard to find guys that play guard in the NFL at a high level too. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's just, I think the body type's more common at guard, more common at center, because statistically, there's more 6'3" guys that weigh 315 than there are the other guy I just mentioned. So I think that's why there's the issue and why it's so hard to find a tackle, why people are always hunting for a tackle. But if you're just a coach and a GM, get 5 good dudes, good dudes that can get you on base and make sure your quarterback's not getting blown up. And I think that to me is where the value of the guard becomes just as valuable as the tackle. It's just harder to find that body type, I think.
So that was going to be the last part that I was going to ask, because if you're talking about value, it's kind of like, what's the upside and then what's the scarcity, right? If you can find, it's not that linebacker isn't important. It's that finding someone who's really good, what that actually does for your defense. I mean, what it does for your defense is immense, but the scarcity is so great. If you can find a really great one, great, but you can probably find a bunch of guys that are about the same somewhere in the 3rd round. Running back is probably the better example. There's a bunch of dudes. If you have a great running back, like, we can see what it happens if you have the right circumstances around them. Saquon Barkley's value in Philadelphia is 10x what it was in New York, because he actually has space to be Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia. So that would be the only, I don't want to say counter argument, but like, I want to flesh that out just because I think that is the counter argument that would be attempted is, okay, but there are more dudes who can play guard. And then I think the other part of that is, if you have a really, really good guard, what does that do for your offense compared to a really, really good tackle, which has traditionally been the higher value position?
I do think it's funny, though, with what Logan just mentioned, too, about the gifts with Josh. Like, Josh is an NFL tackle who just may end up playing guard. I forget what comedian did it years ago, but he did some bit in a stand-up where he's like, you never have a broken escalator. It's just temporarily stairs. So if you've got a guy that eventually is going to be an escalator again, and he's got to be stairs for a while, that's fine. We need stairs. Stairs are a plenty important part of the ecosystem of any building that you're going to walk into. They'll get you out of a lot of problems. And so I think that's the difference. Like, you didn't, and again, drafting a pure guard in the 1st round, high up in there, awesome. Yeah. Love that stuff. Like, Gray Zabel, if he ends up playing center or guard out of North Dakota State, that was an awesome pick because that guy rocks and he's good at football, and you need good guys everywhere. But this guy also, like, can start here and still end up outside because, to your point, you've got a body type that can do more than just one thing for you.
Yeah, and I was talking to a tackle that I coach, and we was talking about Brandon Sheriff. He had played with him at some point in his career, and he said, like, a good guard can make a good tackle. And Mike was talking about this earlier with line stunts and things like that. So when if I'm a guard and I'm setting a 3 technique, kind of these Aaron Donald, Carter's, like your elite 3 techniques, and they're going to run a stunt, and I can get you at the line of scrimmage and keep you from penetrating, it allows the tackle to be better on his set, right? I can be a little bit more aggressive on my angle set and then come back into the fit because the guard's so good. The double teams, the B blocks on the backside, I can get that shoulder turn. I can elevate I don't say a bad player, but a less than top tier player at tackle with a good guard. So I do think like that's an important variable here too, is like when you look at teams, I'm going to go back to the Saints because they had those 2 really good guards. Like their tackles were good, but they weren't great, but they were elevated because of how well their guards were able to handle some of this interior stuff, some of the run game stuff, some of the combination stuff. Like it was really driven through them. And so you can build an offensive line that way. And so don't sleep on the value of having a really good player, because it makes that other player better. And it goes vice versa, right? A good tackle will help a good guard, like you were talking about at the beginning of the show. So,
well, and like eventually it will help make him a better tackle if he does start on the inside and kick out. Because then you know, what does that guy need? How can I help him better? What do I expect when I'm in a position out at tackle based on what I know that guy's going through? So, like, having a more complete version of the picture is a net positive, however you slice it.
Yeah, and on a much simpler level, like, if you can run basic run plays and get more movement, and 2nd and 8 becomes 2nd and 6 because that guard is better than the replacement level guy, like, that's good football. That's simple stuff. Even my skinny ass can understand that. All right, Mike Golic Jr. He's got a show. It's coming with his pops, Mike Golic Sr. FanDuel Sports Network. Mike, what's the start date here in June? When are we getting going?
I believe we're looking at June 9th as the start date right now. So hopefully be ready to go, catch the tail end of the finals and everything, get into the meat of baseball season and, chug on through the NFL offseason here and have more of these fun debates and conversations for sure.
Yes. 4 to 6 every afternoon, FanDuel Sports Network. Mike, this was great. Thanks for joining us as always.
Want more from Craig and Logan? Subscribe now on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. More Hoffman Show next on the Team 980 and the free Odyssey app.
Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Any moment now, because he operates on his own time, Linnell Willingham is actually going to pop in studio with us because he had some kind of flaming hot take that Anthony couldn't believe his ears on when it came to Terry McLaurin. Is that?
He wasn't alone.
And he had company. I think that's the most disappointing thing.
Yeah. So the Grand Danny show. We had Toby down there, but
those goobers.
They were down there discussing whether or not Terry McLaurin was a top 10 receiver. I think Linnell had him in like the late teens. Ryan Clary had him like 14, I think. Grand Danny also had him at like between 12 and 15. Like, it was bad. Toby had him top 10, the back half of the top 10, which I think I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, and also, who cares? Like, if we're talking about value, like to me, where the rubber meets the road is the contract value. At what point do you just go like, oh, this guy's a X $1 million receiver, right? Versus this guy is a, I don't know, pick a different number, X minus 10. Like, who's a $40 million receiver? Who's a $35 million receiver? Who is a $30 million receiver? Like, there's a lot of, I think, different levels to this that are worth pointing out. And if Linnell ever gets his butt down the hallway, then maybe we could discuss it with him.
Yeah, I see him down there too.
Does he know that the segment started and he agreed to come on this segment?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I asked him. So I said, would you like to just come on at 6:15 or would you like to come on now? He was like, I'll be ready now. So, but here he is. I see Toby moving over to the other side of the board.
Oh, he's running. He's actually like doing a job.
Well, yeah, he was.
He's not just. I just figured. Oh, I guess there's no overtime tonight. Well, I don't want to take him off of their show. Their show ends at 6:15.
Yeah,
we could have waited for
6:15.
And
here he is. Smiling too hard.
This guy.
Hell no.
This guy is just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, my guy, Linnell. He's gonna get all set, and then I'm gonna tell him.
Anthony, no. I'm going to tell Anthony. I feel like you have come over here and misconstrued everything that I said, per usual. And it's probably just propaganda being spewed over here. Now you're throwing the alley-oop to Craig to dunk on me.
Before we get started, you're working down the hall till 6:15. When I didn't realize that, go do your job. We'll get you at 6:15.
Well, no, I have to go at 6:15.
Okay. What's your
and I am like Mark Zuckerman's on the board. It's running itself, aka
okay.
Toby's running it.
Okay. What?
No, because I actually had this morning. I had Trevor Sickham on this morning.
Okay.
And the line that he gave that I think stood out from all of this, I wish we would have got that clipped off. He said he was the toughest eval of his top 10 wide receivers. Now, he ultimately put him 10th. He said he had him ranked as high as 8th when doing the exercise and as low as 19th. So if that doesn't tell you that there is some debate to be had about where Terry ranks, I don't know what does. The other thing is this, and this was my best point, I feel like, by the way. Pat myself on the back.
Why would you stop now?
Well, look, the wide receiver discussion in the NFL, I think, should be viewed as the most nuanced discussion because we're talking about the deepest position group in the NFL. There is going to be flavors that certain analysts and fans prefer than others. So if just because I say Terry is not better than a certain wide receiver or Terry's not ranked, me personally, I think I'd stand hard on him at 12 or 11. After last year, obviously, I think people's opinion of him a little bit skewed because he went Kanye crazy last year, as I like to call it, right? He went off.
No, he didn't go Kanye crazy. He was very, very good. Terry's a very fine human being, and anything related to Kanye crazy means that he's lost his marbles. Antonio Brown went Kanye crazy, okay? Terry McLaurin did
Antonio
not.
Brown, though, is still one of the greatest route runners ever.
Sure. How's that doing for him now?
Well, not good.
Yeah.
CTESPN. But that was the whole point. And I think there were a couple of receivers that I preferred over Terry that Anthony lost his mind over.
Okay, well, let's go those, and then let's go where the rubber actually meets the road. Who are the guys that Anthony lost his mind over?
He went – I've literally never seen him this worked up. I said Mike Evans. He damn near jumped through the glass. I said, good God, brother. We talk ball. You know what I'm saying? Me and Anthony, he hears all of the crazy things that you guys think I say on air. He hears the real crazy takes from me. He gets it raw from your boy. From an athleticism standpoint, okay, Tear Bear, a lot faster. But, like, I'm just looking at the overall body of work.
We're not doing Hall of Fame cases. We're doing for 2025.
That's
Terry
another
McLaurin,
thing that Anthony
Thank you, Craig.
conveniently omitted.
Thank you.
That's another thing
What
that
do
he
you mean
conveniently
omitted as if that doesn't help our case, not yours?
No, it does. That's exactly why he left it out. He left it out that it was just for 2025. If we're going just for next year, yeah, I'm probably going to take Terry over Mike.
What are
That's
you guys
what the
ranking?
rankings are.
Correct. You're right. They are.
What did you think you were doing?
I didn't know I was supposed to be over it.
No, what did you think you were doing over there?
Just shooting it, you know. Nice hairdo, by the way, buddy.
Thanks.
But no, like the bigger. I think to repeat what I said a moment ago, because when I make a good point, I like to repeat it. I think we're evaluating the deepest position group in football, so there is going to be plenty of nuance and plenty of people that go, oh, if we're going to nitpick over things.
But also, who cares? Here's where the rubber meets the road. How
I'm
much
signing him, by the way.
How much are you paying him?
I said if this is where I disagreed with Grant and Danny. Like, if I'm Terry in his representation, I see DK signed for $33 million annually. The negotiation starts there. I'm better than DK. I'm more available than DK. I've had worse quarterback play over the duration of our career than DK. So yeah, that's how I would go. I think the deal I said on air earlier was like 3 for 101, something like that.
So I'm a 3 for. I don't really care what the final number is. If you want to make it 4 for
the
120.
guarantee is the big one, right?
The thing is for me, yeah, I would have less AAV than DK, more guaranteed because he's older. So
Yes.
like, let's just go shorter deal. Because also, when you have the shorter deal, it's less like baloney on the end. So let's just do now. If you're Terry, you might want the extra baloney on the end because you want to, try to have extra dead money late because whatever reason, or at that point, it actually in some ways makes you more likely to be cut, as opposed to trying to figure out a restructure and let's make sure that we can get it to where we get it, both sides happy in 3 years, and you can finish your career in burgundy and gold. I'm a 3. What did I say, Anthony, the other day? I think 4 for 120.
Yep,
that gets you to 30 AAV with 76 guaranteed. That gets you in the top 5 of total guarantees.
Yeah.
Like, and at that point, who cares because like it does matter. To your point, there is nuance here. It matters how guys fit in certain situations and how guys fit in certain circumstances. What roles are you asking them to play? Like, is Garrett Wilson better than Terry McLaurin? Depends on what you ask them to do. Like, there's a bunch of guys like that in the league. I think Terry straight up is just better than DK. They do a lot of similar stuff, and I'd rather have Terry than DK. And that doesn't even get into the fact that off the field, Terry is like the best dude you could possibly ask for. And if you are a hometown team, an incumbent team, trying to keep a guy like that, it sends a message to everyone else in your locker room and everyone else across the league of what you value. You just come off a career year. You're a leader. You took to everything that we wanted in the program. If that's not rewarded, then what is ever going to be rewarded by the Washington Commanders front office? The answer is nothing, which is why they're going to sign him to a deal. And fantasy, sure, if you want to do fantasy rankings, that matters to some people because they have fantasy teams. But like an arbitrary who's better, like who gives a rip?
Yeah, and I think, by the way, Garrett Wilson, one of the dudes that Anthony went bonkers over when I said it. Because I made the argument of like, if we're going to make the argument about Terry being in QB hell, Garrett's been in QB hell as well. And the other thing is, I look at receiver deeper than the name, right? Like, I would prefer Terry over Amon-Ra St. Brown because if you put Terry in Ben Johnson's force feed the slot offense, he'd put up 110 catches a year too.
I don't know about that. Like,
that's just my thought.
Different receivers. Like, you can't make the argument that like Terry's not a great separator, then be like, oh yeah, I'm on.
Well, I haven't made that argument, but I know it's out there.
Yeah, but they're different players. Terry is he's quote unquote undersized from like a stereotypical X. But, like Terry's a badass X receiver. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown is a slot god. They are very different players. And to pretend like they're the same, or like, yeah, Ben Johnson loves he said the other day, like one of the dumbest, weirdest things I've ever seen. It's like, oh, I don't like tush push. You ever seen it become an explosive play? I like explosive plays. You know what I like? Touchdowns. And that helps you get touchdowns. So, but in Ben Johnson's offense that is extraordinarily explosive down the field, yeah, Terry would have a field day, but he's more Jamison Williams than he is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Sure. I'm just saying he could do everything that Amon-Ra can do. I don't know. I know for a fact Amon-Ra probably can't line it up outside of X and win as much as Terry does.
Right, but there's stuff Amon-Ra does that's better than Terry. Like his feel for space over the middle. Like Terry, and this is to me like, what do you care about? Do you care about underlying metrics or do you care about production? Because at some point, the underlying metrics are used to predict future performance, right?
Yeah.
Things like separation rate matter because it tells you how good this guy is going to be. Except for when we have 8 years of production that says it doesn't matter if he can't separate. He'll get you 1,000 yards every year, even if his quarterback plays boo-boo.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Garrett Wilson comp is interesting to me, like in terms of putting them back and forth. I think Garrett has shown he's like a route running god. I think he runs better routes than Terry. He snaps stuff off better than Terry. I think he's more sudden than Terry is.
Right, but do his quarterbacks trust him?
Right. Do his quarterbacks trust him? And Terry, I think Terry's faster than him. Like he can't boogie the way
more
can.
raw horsepower versus the quickness or whatever. And like, some of these younger guys, we still kind of can't help it but put their potential into it. And like straight up, Terry's more productive. He's a better football player than Garrett Wilson. He has been.
Sure.
But in the next, if you're doing it for 5 years, do you think that Garrett Wilson could round out? Like, sure, Garrett Wilson, his upside's crazy. His upside's higher than Terry's probably. Yeah. But like, eventually you got to reach it. So I don't know. Is he the 8th, the 9th, the 12th best, whatever? All I know is that when I look at the list of dudes and where the contracts are, I'd make him one of the, based off of where current structures are, because some of these guys that we're talking about are on rookie deals or, it got extended 2 years ago and they'll get extended again. And I put them above Terry in 2 years when they're up again. I would put Terry in the top 5 to 6 guys on most of the, whether it's total guarantee, like there's one of them, I think like total cash number, he'd wind up being like 8th or 9th. But like the ones that matter, AAV, total guarantees, I'd make a top 5 paid receiver in football.
To me, his age doesn't matter either because you're probably going to line his deal up to when Jaden starts to become the $75 million man.
Bingo.
And realistically speaking, Commander fans, this is going to like hurt. And I hope calmer heads can prevail. And Terry, I don't know how he views it. This is probably his last go around with Washington. Probably his last deal here.
I mean, it depends. If he values staying here over other things in 3, like, so you're extension eligible after 3, right? And then the big money would hit in year 4 potentially. So Jaden's got 3 more before big money. If you sign what's essentially a 3-year deal, and then at the end of it, you say, okay, I'm now 33 years old. I'm willing to take less. Like, it doesn't have to be his last deal. It's his last big deal, but it's his last big deal anywhere, unless someone's going to offer him something dumb or he values a 1-year, $20 million deal over a 2-year, $30 million deal in Washington in 3 years or whatever those numbers are.
And remember when Terry signed this deal last time, it was shorter so he could get this second payday. It was all very
because he was an older player coming out. It was smart. Right. Because you want to get as close to 30 as you want to be under 30. He's just over it, as opposed to signing this deal far north of 30. That's a good discussion.
That went better than I thought it would. You didn't throw the alley-oop lob.
You came in just assuming all kinds of stuff, as opposed to assuming that I was going to ask you for your actual take,
not
because I actually do the journalism, as opposed to just listen to other. Look, what they teach you in journalism school: if your mama tells you she loves you, you better double check, and I double check.
I like that one. I've never heard that one before, but
here's the other lesson to take home with you, since it's 6:15 and you got to go. If someone says it's raining and another person says it's not, your job isn't to report that one person says it's raining and the other person says it's not. Your job is to go outside and check.
Walk it out.
Go outside and check, Linnell. Linnell Willingham, everybody. You on this weekend?
Too much. Tomorrow, 10-1 on the Fan and here. So see you then.
See you, Linnell, tomorrow, but not right now because he's done for the day. All right, when we get back, basketball. It's happening tonight. Eastern Conference Finals. We're talking about it. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. We'll get into Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight coming up. And then, Anthony, we'll do a quick weekend preview coming up at 6:45. Just realized we don't really have time for that. What did you make of our conversation with Linnell?
I thought it was a good back and forth. I think your point about how much money, Terry's going to command this offseason was valid just because, again, we're talking about for the 2025 season. And ironically, Linnell did not know that, these rankings were
I still don't understand how this started.
Like, what are we talking about?
I still don't understand how this started. What rankings were they looking at where they got mad, or did they make their own and then did not agree on what they were ranking? Like, what that's to me is like, you're talking about like manufacturing outrage. Like, let's come up with an artificial rubric that nobody knows what it is and say some stuff that sounds inflammatory and then see if people get mad about it. And it's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Yelling about sports.
I think this had to do with Linnell's conversation with Trevor Sikkema earlier today.
And then
it just made its way to the radio after a break where we were all over there arguing about it, which was crazy.
First of all, I love Trevor. Second of all,
I had him 10 though, so I salute it.
Trevor had him 10.
Yeah,
that's fine. Like, who are the 9 ahead? Chase, Jefferson,
CD,
Tyreek,
AJ Brown.
I know. I saw the clip that was going around of Trevor saying that he is. Whoa, my phone just tried to call Tarek, as opposed to we're talking about Tyreek Hill, and I swear to God, I looked down at my phone was like calling Tarek El-Bashir. So I'm probably have to text Tarek in a second and be like, "Hey, Siri lost her mind. No, Siri, you settle down. I see you lighting up on my phone over there. Chill out." It turned the brightness down on my phone. Apparently, if you tell Siri to chill out, then it turns the brightness down. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, Trevor said that A.J. Brown's the best receiver in football. Over Jamar and J.J. And if you hear his explanation, you're like, that's actually a pretty good point.
I'm actually looking at his list right now. So he does have A.J. Brown number 1.
Yeah. So
he's got A.J. Brown number 1, Jettis 2, Jamar Chase 3. That's tier 1. And then he gets down to tier 2. He has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, and Tyreek Hill, respectively. And then tier 3, he has Mike Evans at 9, Terry McLaurin at 10, Drake London at 11, Malik Neighbors at 12, Garrett Wilson at 13, T. Higgins at 14.
Yeah, I would flip Terry and Mike. But I get it. Also, Trevor's a Bucs fan and has, like, if I was a Bucs fan and had watched Mike Evans be amazing for a decade, I probably would also have him above Terry. Like, it's close enough that that's not an outrageous thought.
Yeah.
Who is the most likely? I feel like Tyreek is the most likely to drop because, like, he's a speed guy who's now on the other end of 30. And, like, again, if you're 4.2 fast and you all of a sudden become 4.37 fast, oh, no. Like, there's only, okay. But he's, if that is his number one thing. So if he loses that, also their offense is in a weird place. I think they're, like, depending on what the quarterback play situation is, Malik Neighbors is an interesting to be a top riser and wind up in tier 2 because that dude's nasty.
He is nasty.
But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that's the right list. And I feel like the tiers are right too. Like, AJ belongs in the top tier with the LSU guys.
I was surprised CD wasn't up there though. I was surprised that.
I think CD's injuries and, like, CD, I think the thing that separates Jetta, Jamar, and AJ is you line them up anywhere and it's on.
Yeah.
CD can line up anywhere for sure, but if he lines up outside, you're like, thank God, because him in the slot is
scary.
Is 10 out of 10. Him outside is like an 8 out of 10, which is still awesome. But those other dudes are 10 out of 10 everywhere, and so I think that is the tier difference. Is like all those other dudes are 10 out of 10 at something.
Yeah,
and they're the top 3 guys are 10 out of 10 at everything. And then you have guys like Terry who are like 9 out of 10. And you go, if you want to say that's a tier down, fine. Who were the tier 2 guys again? It was
let me get it for you real quick. Tier 2, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill. We got 5 guys.
I want to push back on Nico, but like Nico's awesome. He's that good. He's actually that good.
I struggle with this one because, again, he had one good year, and then last year he had another solid year until he got hurt.
When he was in, they were a totally different team. Like he's nasty. But I think like it goes to my rubric. Like Nico as an outside receiver is like a 10 out of 10 good when he's on. Tyreek, obviously, with what he does from a speed standpoint. CD in the slot, Puka in the slot, best power slot in the game. He's also an unbelievable run blocker. Like that all tracks for me. I'm fine with that. And then it's just like if you want to put Evans below Terry, like I'm good with that. If you want to make the argument that Evans is before, if I had to bet on one for 2025, I'd probably bet on Terry. But like Mike Evans is still awesome. And still had 1,000 yards last year. They got it to him on that very last play, but like he still was close enough that was a thing. So that's fine. All right, when we get back, we'll talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. Where will it stand after the weekend? Can the Knicks recover from their Game 1 collapse? We discuss next on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Tonight, Eastern Conference Finals. It is Game 2, 8 o'clock on TNT and Max, which is now reverted to HBO Max because branding, it's important, kids. Pacers take the 1-0 lead on the Tyrese Halliburton and then overtime victory, 138-135 in Game 1. Anthony, the big question that all the shows have been talking about, presumably all day, even though I've watched zero sports television today and don't actually know if people are talking about this, but can probably guess it based off the fact of how formulaic they are and how unoriginal the questions are that drive those shows, and sometimes this one. Can the Knicks bounce back?
I don't think so. I'm joking. Nah, they can't.
Which is always so funny, right? It's like, can the Knicks bounce back? They could.
I mean, they could.
It's a possibility. There's really one of two, which is like they could, and they could bounce. There's sub trees off of the topic, right? They could bounce back and be mentally fine, but the Pacers could just make more shots and play a better basketball game, and the Pacers could still win. But it's not like the Knicks didn't bounce back. They could play a really competitive game. They could also poo their pants and not bounce back and be mentally broken and then be down 2-0 going to Indiana. That would be bad. They could also play a bad game, but the Pacers could be arrogant and play terribly and dribble the ball off their foot 78,000 times. The Knicks could also win. So there's really kind of four options if you think about it. They could bounce back and win. They could bounce back and still lose. They could not bounce back and win, and then they could not bounce back and lose, and then not bounce back and fall backwards into a win. How do you think that? Did we discover why I'm not a panelist on First Take yet?
Yeah, that was a lot right there. A lot to take in. But I do think, to answer your question, the Knicks can bounce back tonight. And I say that because, again, they got a lot of the shots that they wanted to against the Pacers. It really was just the meltdown in the fourth quarter where you allow the Pacers to go on that crazy run to end the game. Nesmith gets hot. I don't anticipate him doing that again, shooting 8 for 9 from 3.
No, that was crazy.
Yeah, so I think that if I'm the Knicks, I'm confident going into this next game just because, again, there was nothing the Pacers did that, slowed their momentum or, prevented them from getting buckets, except those last 3 minutes of the game where they fumbled the ball away, missed some free throws down the stretch. A lot of that stuff was very much controllable. So I think they'll bounce back tonight and win.
So there was an amazing stat that I think it was in Zach Harper's newsletter, The Bounce for The Athletic. It might have been on Tom Haber's show. I can't remember if I read his newsletter, but I think it was Harper's. I think it was in Zach Harper's column today. And he said one of the craziest things about the Pacers comeback at the end of Game 1 is that the Knicks didn't stop scoring. Like sometimes you're like, oh, Knicks haven't scored a field goal or Knicks haven't scored in 2:45. You're like, yeah, no wonder the Pacers came back. They hit 3 threes or 2 threes and a free throw and a 2, and they scored 9, and they're on a 9-0 run and erased a 9-point deficit because the other team hasn't scored. The Knicks scored points on 7 of their final 10 possessions in regulation. 7 of their last 10. And in that time, they lost a 14-point lead because they gave up 5 threes to Aaron Nesmith, and he scored 20 all by his own self. That's preposterous. So it really is one of the flukiest games that that any of us have ever seen in terms of the unlikelihood that Indiana does it. Now, as many have said, including Tim Bontemps when he joined us yesterday, Indiana's made a habit of this. They have 3 of the 4 most unlikely comebacks, or I think it's 4 of the most 7, depending on which metric you look at, most unlikely comebacks in the history of the playoffs in this postseason. But I do think if you're New York, you can definitely look at this and be like, all the stuff we did to be up 14, if we just do that, frankly, if we play like we did again down the stretch again, we'll probably win, because if someone goes in the Garden at the right time, Halliburton shot doesn't bounce in and we don't even go to overtime. Like, that's how thin the margin was.
Yeah, and then also I think the missed free throws from some of your better guys, Carl Anthony, OG Anunoby, if they were in those positions again, I'm confident they knocked those shots down. Again, it was just the Pacers did what they did, man. They made the most of the situation and can't necessarily fault them because they just played until, the last buzzer sounded.
So if we take a different approach to analyzing this game and trying to predict it, then what do the Pacers need to do differently to not be down 14 with 3 minutes to go? Because that's an interesting question that if I'm Rick Carlisle and that staff, I'm like, hey, guys, this was great. We're not doing that again. Like, if we get in the moment, we believe, but how do we make it so we don't have to do that again? And that question becomes interesting because one of the key runs of that game that should have won it for the Knicks happens when Brunson goes to the bench.
Which is insane.
Deuce McBride played well enough, and just they as a unit played extraordinarily well. But part of that is you have Jalen Brunson defensively to attack. And especially if he's got 5 fouls, he's having to play Ole defense because he can't foul out. So one of the things that I would continue to do if I was Indiana is target him in pick and rolls, especially. How do I get him? And honestly, I run a lot of inverted stuff. I run a lot of it where he's guarding the screener because he's doesn't always make the greatest decisions in those situations. How many times does it feel like he's jumped out and tried to hedge and gets his arm wrapped around in something silly, or he gets caught in a switch and he's fighting and then he gets called for an off-ball foul? There's a reason Jalen Brunson has been in a little bit of foul trouble, and it's because if you can involve him in stuff, he's not the world's greatest defender. By the same token, on the other side, the Knicks need to do more of that with Tyrese Halliburton because he's also not the world's greatest defender. So that is, to me, one of the key matchups is can you get Towns, who is very foul prone, and Brunson in foul trouble? How do you attack them and try to get them off their game and maybe even out of the game? And if you can, then I think you have a much better chance of not being down 14 with 3 minutes to go and needing a miraculous comeback.
Yeah, and I also think you need a little bit more from the second unit because, again, that second unit from Indiana was in during that run, and Thomas Bryant was getting killed on the boards by Mitchell Robinson. So they had second chance opportunity after second chance opportunity. And then also Carl Anthony Towns was sort of kind of a problem as well. So
he's been a problem. Trying
to limit him and his activity, at least in this series, he's been a little bit more aggressive. He should have been doing this all along, to be honest. He is a mismatch problem.
I mean, in the playoffs, he has been. He's been awesome this postseason. I'm not the biggest Carl Towns fan based off of some of the flubs he's had in the past. And he does some things sometimes where I'm like, that was weird. But he's a hell of a player, man. And I have a lot of respect for the way he's playing right now and the intensity with which he plays. I think he's thriving there in New York. He's also been through a lot of stuff off the court. I have a lot of respect for how he's carried himself through a lot of that stuff. So we'll see what they can do tonight. I think, the other thing is the pace. This game was played at Indiana's pace. And even though New York was up, I don't want to play the other team's game. So I am trying to play my game more so, slow it down. And the other thing, too, from a matchup standpoint along those lines is, do you see more Robinson and Towns together? I think it was only 7 minutes worth in game one. And they rebounded like crazy during those minutes.
Last series, we saw that.
Yeah, and I think they're afraid to go too big against Indiana because of how they run. Just do it. Those guys are great athletes. It'll be okay. And slow the game down a little bit. And if Indiana wants to run, okay, fine. You got to get stops. Good luck stopping us when you can't get a rebound, because even if we miss, we just get the ball and we put it back in the rim.
Yeah.
All right, when we get back, a quick weekend preview. And then Real Things Real People Said into real microphones to wrap up this here edition of the Hoffman Show. All right, it is that time where we do one more radio segment, and then we stop doing radio for a couple days. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. All right, Anthony, weekend preview time. What do you got this weekend? What are we looking at? By the way, it's still brought to you by nobody.
It is brought to us by nobody. Seahoff, I have a high school graduation to attend.
Okay.
Georgetown Prep's class of 2025 will be graduating tomorrow morning.
Congratulations.
So I'll be
to them.
there, seeing my guys off. After that, Zaire Franklin will be paying a trip to the city. So I'm going to see him. I don't know when he's touching down. But one of his wife's friends just graduated from law school.
I'm gonna rephrase that for you because it sounded like you said you said that in a way that's made it sound like Zaire had multiple wives.
One of his wife's
friends.
One of his friends.
His singular wife has a friend who just graduated from law school.
Yes.
And he's coming in to visit for that.
Yes. So he'll be in town maybe for like 24 hours knowing him. But yeah, I'll see him, and then Sunday my brother's having a cookout in Delaware, so I might go up there. I don't think I'm going to be watching a lot of TV this weekend, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll try. I know there's NBA on. I know there's WNBA games probably going to be on as well. I don't. It's Memorial Day weekend. I just need to find the nearest cookout. I need to find the nearest cookout. I need a hot dog. I need some baked beans. I need some mac and cheese. Maybe we get some greens or broccoli. So, you need some vegetables to,
eat your vegetables, kids.
Yeah. But yeah, point me to the nearest cookout. That's all I'm saying, Craig.
Somebody send Anthony an invite to a cookout. We will judge your food. As for if you want to watch some basketball this weekend, Sun and Lynx WNBA action tonight is the early one. The Mystics a part of the Friday night action late. Mystics Aces, Valkyrie Sparks, Mercury, and Storm. Tomorrow, Liberty Fever, 1 o'clock on CBS. That is a big game. And then on Sunday, the Mystics are at the Mercury again. Or Mystics are back in action again. They're facing the Mercury 6 o'clock to wrap up their road trip. Of course, the NBA Conference Finals continue this weekend. Formula One is in Monaco, which is one of the signature races of the year. They added a 2 pit stop rule, so everyone's got to stop at least twice. Hopefully that makes that race interesting, because while it's a beautiful race, and like racing through the streets of Monaco is historic and cool, the race has actually been terrible and unexciting the past couple of years because it's not a wide enough course to like really pass anybody. So you just get cars stuck behind each other, and it basically comes down to who qualifies first on Saturday, and then do you not screw it up in the first lap. And so hopefully now some strategy enters the equation, and we'll see if we get a more exciting Monaco Grand Prix. Qualifying tomorrow, Grand Prix on Sunday. Spirit play tonight, 10 o'clock against Seattle. Seattle's a fun team. They're young, and obviously Spirit is too. The Spirit have been awesome on the road, so I'll watch that one tomorrow morning when I wake up. And then tonight, what was the other? Oh, Mystics play tonight. That was the other game that I've been saying and what's trending. Anthony, do we have anything good for Real Things?
Yeah, we have a couple of things.
Oh, also the Nats are hosting the Giants all weekend. Okay, now it's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All righty then. What we got in the folder of magic sound?
All right, so
I went full Scottish. I just did it. I just went for it.
Yeah, that was a little crazy. This is from Thursday, actually. Commanders head coach Dan Quinn was at Salisbury University, his alma mater, and he had some words of wisdom.
You bleeped one of them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. Just making sure. Let it rip.
Which leads me back to where we started and the 4 words I wish I was told when I was in your chair. And now I live by. So, ladies and gentlemen of Salisbury University's class of 2025, let it rip.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. I got to go watch the whole speech. Did you watch the whole speech, or you just see this clip? Because I just
saw the clip.
Also, Logan tried to tell me that Dan Quinn doesn't cuss a lot.
Huh?
I was like, If Dan Quinn doesn't cuss a lot, I want to know who you think does cuss a lot.
Whoa, he what? I don't know. I mean,
Dan Quinn says Dan Quinn cusses a lot.
Yeah, he curses a decent amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that in his opening press conference.
Yes.
He's not afraid. I'm afraid to carry him on live radio.
No. We also got some wisdom from Shane Battier, and he had a message to parents out there who maybe, out there supporting their kids and want to curse a ref out, but can go about it in a more respectful and manner.
Yeah, this is from the Glue Guys podcast.
If you want to yell at a referee, Eric Spoelstra had the best thing he'd ever said to a referee. NBA referees are used to getting yelled at by everybody every single night. And this is the only time I've heard a coach yell at a ref and not get teed up by it. He will yell at them, "You got to focus. This is important. People care about this."
That's amazing.
And you can never get teed up for that, all right? A ref could never throw you out of the game for saying, "Hey, ref, you got to focus, man. This is important." We care about this. We care about this. So for you parents out there listening, that's the best thing you can say to a ref if you want to yell at them and not cuss.
That's pretty good. Also, it's something that you could say to your kid. What's your kid going to say back to you? I was focused. We got to focus more, Jimmy.
That's actually hilarious.
But also, I mean, be nice. Be nice to youth referees. It does matter. They do need to focus. But also, they're there giving their time to make sure that your kid can have a game. Easy for me to say now. Wait till I got kids and be out there yelling at referees. That's our show. Have a great holiday weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday.